Yeah. MD, JPB, it's only right, baby.
Yeah, why you mad? I got a bad bro. Name hot in these streets, no Tabasco. But I'm so stubbed, that's a fact, yo. And if you think I'm frontin', you can run it back, yo. Go on, run it back.
You know that I run it. Everything you wanna do, I already done it. And I got your little boo telling me she love me. I got this one down, but damn, it's gonna be a long night.
Hello guys, what is up? It is me, Prince of What Ifs, and I'm back here with another video. Today I'm doing what if Deku could edit Quirks, as you can tell by the title and thumbnail. And needless to say, this might not make it to 1 hour, but I'm fine with that. I'm just not gonna do it, because at this point I think it's just better for my own health not to stress over making something an hour long exactly for a special. The reason it's a special is because you guys love this what if, and that's enough for me to put this much work into it. And I hope that you like it. Yeah, and what if Deku ate the Marimara no Mi? That's on the way. Sorry for those of you who wanted it. It didn't come out on I think Friday or Thursday it was supposed to come out, but it didn't come out, and I'm sorry about that. But I had to work on this, and yeah, that's about it. I'm just gonna get right into the video because I know y'all already tired. It's been a while. Okay, it hasn't been a while. It's been fucking 3 weeks. I'm lying, obviously. Here it is. What if Deku could edit Quirks part 2? 3K special. I know it's late, but here it is. Now, Izuku wakes up as the next day had come and it was time for another day of school. He ate breakfast with Inko and then he headed for UA. And when he got to school, he saw a bunch of reporters. It's too early for this shit, thinks Izuku. He then decides to jump over the wall, avoiding the reporters in the process, but every other student walked through the gates and got stopped and interviewed as they were asked questions like, how was All Might as a teacher? And what lessons does he teach? Soon Aizawa comes over and told them to leave, and they refuse, so he shut the gates and activated UA's barrier. Now we go to the 1A students in their homeroom and Aizawa starts to speak. I heard about the results of the lesson yesterday. Good job, everyone. I'm impressed. But Bakugo, everyone gets stiff all of a sudden. I told you never to do things like this again. I told you you will be expelled. Don't ever take my words lightly. Your quirk is powerful, yes, but that's not all there is to being a hero. Do I make myself clear? Bakugo nervously says yes as Aizawa says that aside from that, they need to talk about the homeroom notices. They need to pick a class president. All the students are happy as they were finally doing something related to school, and they popped out of their chairs saying that they all wanted to be president. And Izuku, however, was sleeping, and Aizawa notices this and walks to him. Then he makes a fist and hits him on the head and wakes him up. Ow, sorry, jeez, I'm up, says Izuku. Aizawa then says, if you keep being like this, I'll add more exercises to your training sessions. When he hears this, Izuku straightens up and slaps himself awake in an instant, and everyone then wonders what kind of training could scare Izuku of all people. Ida then raises his hand saying that they must do this democratically and vote, and so they do. And after everything, Izuku gets picked as class president, and Momo is the vice president. Seeing that Izuku became president instead of, getting mad, Bakugo actually starts to laugh, and the others reluctantly ask him why. That bastard has been the laziest person I've ever known. Even though he's strong and smart, he really hates doing schoolwork, says Bakugo. Everyone then actually thinks about this for a bit and they all agree, even Aizawa agreed. And even though he hated to admit it, Izuku knew it was the truth. So they came to a conclusion to pick Ida as the class president. And everyone was pretty content with this decision, and then they went to lunch. Izuku and Uraraka and Ida sit at the same table and start eating, but Izuku has a lot more on his plate than they do. Uraraka then asks, are you sure you're not eating too much? This is nothing. You should see how much I eat at home when I'm really hungry, says Izuku. Ida then says, is this maybe due to your quirk as well? Izuku then says, yes it is. By the way, congrats class rep. I didn't expect any less from Atenya. Hearing this surprised Ida as Uraraka asked about his family, and when he told her about his family, she was really shocked, but since Ida was always so proper, it made sense. How did you know about my family? asks Ida. Izuku then says, I know everything. He then winks at the two and they chuckle and continue to have lunch. However, soon the alarms start to go off all of a sudden and the students start to panic. They all then start to run, and in the midst of all this chaos, someone knocks over Izuku's food and he starts to get mad. Ida then notices this and tells him to not go crazy, because he'll handle it. He then asks Uraraka to make him weightless, and she points at him. He shines pink and uses, he starts to float and uses his thrusters to fly up. He would then notice the press trying to break in and realizes that there is not any real danger, and he uses his thrusters to launch himself to the front of the students and tells them to calm down. It's just a press. Please, let's all act accordingly and in an orderly manner. We're students of UA. We shouldn't act like this. Hearing this, everyone calms down and they start to applaud Ida for thinking more rationally than they did, and soon the police arrives at UA and drives away all the reporters. Then everyone goes to their own classes, and everyone in class 1A cheers for Ida. You did it, class rep. And this cemented his position as the leader of the class, and school ended soon. But aside from the reporters fiasco, the UA barrier was actually completely destroyed after this incident, and this felt like a declaration of war. Of course, Izuku heard this from Nezu himself, and so he stayed on guard while he was going back home. After he got home that day, Izuku kept having a feeling of uneasiness, and he told his mom what happened at school so that she could be more careful. Now we go to the next day, and Aizawa tells everyone that they're going to be doing some rescue training, and he shows them their costumes again. But this time Uraraka's costume has an extra feature, which was something that Izuku suggested. She had a blaster on her arm and a bag full of something similar to what Night Eye uses, which are like seals, so I think that's what he calls them, and they're heavy like objects and he just throws them at his enemies. That's what she also has. And by using her gravity quirk and making them even heavier than they already are, if she learns to like control this and aim correctly with them, she could be a force of nature. And then they leave on the bus. Asui then mentions that Izuku's quirk is quite similar to All Might's. That's because it might as well be the same as All Might's quirk. I can cause the same amount of damage as he can, but I'm not as fast as he is. But I never get hurt, says Izuku. Hearing this shocks everyone as Kirishima mentions that he's really jealous since his quirk isn't as flashy and it's pretty useless. And Izuku hearing this laughs as everyone looks at him. Oh, sorry, I'm not making fun of you, it's just that it's funny that you think your quirk is useless, says Izuku. Asumi then says, care to explain? Well, let's put it this way. My quirk, if you don't know what it is the ability to enhance myself as well as others. So to a certain extent, I can gauge someone else's potential. And I gotta tell you, I'm surrounded by monsters. That includes Mineta's quirk. Mineta then says, really? You don't think my quirk is weak? Izuku then says, well, for now it is, but if you focus and train, you'll be surprised at what you can do. After hearing this, everyone feels hype and they really want to get to the rescue training place. And soon they arrive at the USJ and are impressed with the setup. There are places for rescue training. It looks like a real life simulator, it looks like they're actually in battle. It just looks dope. And the person who was showing them all this was, of course, the hero 13. And when they see each other, 13 and Izuku wave at each other without anybody else noticing, because people get suspicious that, they just added buddy, acted buddy. And without anybody else noticing that, then she tells everyone about the responsibility that comes with having a quirk, and all while Uraraka just keeps fangirling over her. Then after her speech, Izuku starts to notice something with his mapping skill, and he tells Aizawa, who gets on guard, everyone stay together, we're under attack. When he says this, a huge portal just starts to open far off in the middle of the USJ, and they all get on guard. Villains start to come out of the portal, as well as Shigaraki, who enters the building, and then Kurogiri, who was creating the portal, speaks to him. According to our information, All Might is supposed to be here, but the only heroes who are present are 13 and Eraserhead. Shigaraki then says, really? And I wonder if he'll show up if we kill these kids. Hearing this, the villains just start coming out and rushing for the kids. As Aizawa nods at Izuku, and Izuku nods at 13, who nods back at him, Aizawa then rushes down the stairs with incredible speed and no hesitation. After this, he then starts to beat up villains left and right pretty easily, not having to even cancel out some of their quirks due to training with someone like Izuku. And now we go back to the students who are pretty panicky, but Izuku and Ida calm them down as Izuku tells everyone to try and contact UA, especially Kaminari, since he can sense some villains messing with the, electromagnetic waves, and this makes it hard for them to contact people. And just as everyone starts to calm down a bit, Kurogiri then appears behind them with his ominous voice. He then proceeds to introduce the League of Villains and tell them why they're here. All of a sudden, an explosion flies towards him, and this was Bakugo, who was trying to stop Kurogiri, but Izuku then stopped him as he yelled, "13, do it now!" 13 then runs in front of the students and uses her quirk to start sucking in Shigaraki, who yells in pain until he is completely absorbed. The shock of the pain was so strong, and Kurogiri just felt himself just disintegrating, and he wanted to bail, but it actually wasn't working because as 13's quirk works, once you're trapped, you are not getting out. If she actually got a shot at Kurogiri, she would have destroyed him, which is why I'm giving her that shot now. Anyway, Kurogiri is then completely absorbed while telling Shigaraki to run. As Kurogiri said this, the massive portal in the middle of the USJ just completely shut, with the last person that got through being a huge, muscle-bound creature. And Izuku notices this new enemy and looks at his classmates. "Guys, we need to help out Aizawa right now. Everyone pair up. But Ida, you need to go get All Might." Ida then says, "Why? You're the fastest one. You should go." Izuku then says, "Yeah, but I'm also the strongest. They need me here. I'll just enhance you." He kicks Ida's leg and his leg starts to shine as Ida just feels a surge of power. "I enhanced you. Now go at maximum speed. For a while you won't have drawbacks. It won't hurt. Just go." Ida then rushes out of the USJ at incredible speed as Izuku jumps into the air and he tells Aizawa to move out of the way. When Aizawa jumps back from the villains, Izuku punches the air at 100%, and the shock wave made from his punch not only blows back the villains but destroys the landscape in the USJ in the process. This created a huge dust cloud that covered up everything as the students' jaws drop. Kirishima then says, "He's amazing. This is the extent of his quirk?" Bakugo then looks up as he sees Izuku looking cooler than he wanted to be without even trying, and this made him enraged as he fired forward and down the stairs and landed near Aizawa in a flash. He then looks back. "What, didn't you hear him? Let's take down these assholes." Everyone then gets really pumped up and they start pairing up like Izuku said, and they start running down. Kirishima joined Bakugo and Izuku landed in front of everyone, and just as the dust cleared, Izuku yelled, "Charge!" The students attacked the rest of the villains who were actually really surprised, and this threw them off, and they got completely destroyed. The people who were the ones who stuck out the most was actually Uraraka, Bakugo, as well as Kirishima, and of course my man's Todoroki. And they were thinking back on what Izuku had told them, and they didn't want to back down or nothing. And Bakugo took the example of Izuku's fighting style. Kirishima used his hardening to his advantage and rammed through the villains, and Uraraka, using her blaster, just manipulated the weight, and with the guidance of 13, who she paired up with, she was getting the hang of it and was aiming just perfectly. I mean, if I could do an animation of how hard these villains were getting destroyed, you'd be laughing your ass off. While all this was happening, Shigaraki sees the one kid who has been causing all his plans to fail, and he couldn't even escape properly now. "Damn it, that kid's cheating, it's not fair. Nomu, take care of him." The creature who had been standing still all this time had finally shown signs of life and started growling or releasing a lot of bloodlust. Whatever that thing is, it has more than one quirk. "Let's take care of that," says Izuku. He then rushes at the Nomu, and the Nomu does the same, and as they clash, this creates a shockwave throughout the building, blowing a lot of people back. Izuku activated his gauntlet and already started making the Nomu weaker and weaker every time he hit him. Shigaraki thought that the Nomu was actually winning when all of a sudden, when Izuku and the Nomu's fists just met once more, the Nomu's arm was completely ripped off and was sent flying. Izuku then grabbed the Nomu by the neck and started reconfiguring the creature's body as everyone looked on in amazement. Inside Izuku's mind, he was seeing the Nomu's DNA, and from scanning it, he saw that it was actually a human once before, and that this person actually got experimented on, and this creature used to be a living, talking being, not just some creature who did a master's bidding. He was trying to help him come back to normal, and first he took away his multiple quirks and reconstructed his DNA strands, making it human again and not just a bird thing. Then he remade his arm and erased the memories of him being captured and experimented on, because yeah, that would bring a lot of trauma. But in order to do so, since it was his first time, bear with me, Izuku took the memories into his archive, the memories of the person being experimented on. And he did this all, and a flash of green light burst throughout the USJ, breaking all its windows and blinding everyone in it. For a while there was silence as everyone was wondering what Izuku had done, and when they could finally see again, Izuku was walking towards them carrying a man who was passed out. Aizawa then asked, "Izuku, is that?" Yes, this was the Nomu. He was a normal man. He had a life. I'm guessing he probably didn't live making the best or right choices, but he didn't deserve this. He gave him to Aizawa, who was having a bad feeling since he had never seen Izuku this mad. Aizawa then says, "Where are you going?" "Their leader is still alive, so I'm gonna end him for good," says Izuku. Aizawa was a little bit scared now, and he told the students to stop him at any cost, and so they tried to. Bakugo went in front of him. "Oi, you bastard, stop, will ya? You beat them, you can calm down now." Just as he says this, he passed out, and the reason why that is because, like I said, since Izuku can completely control the human body, he literally knocked out Bakugo as soon as he started talking to him. As soon as Bakugo started talking, he was already knocked out from the beginning. And Todoroki, who saw this for once, gets serious. Todoroki then says, "Someone move Bakugo out of the way, let me handle this." Sero went in and scooped up Bakugo as Todoroki told Izuku to stop. Then he slammed his foot on the ground, making a road of ice start traveling down and towards Izuku. The other students got out of the way as all of a sudden, a bunch of ice comes up from under Izuku, freezing him up in a flash. "That should hold him," says Todoroki. But he was wrong, as they all started to see cracks until Izuku finally broke out of the ice and rushed towards Shigaraki, who barely saw him until his fist was about to make contact. But then all of a sudden, Izuku stopped mid-attack and was pushed back. "I know you think you're clever, but I can see you, so show yourself." Just as he says this, All Might had burst through the door and arrived with all the other heroes, and he saw everything. But other than that, he felt a strange presence, almost a presence too familiar. And before he could move, the other heroes already started heading down, such as Snipe, Bloodfang, Hound Dog, Ectoplasm, and since they mostly already trained with Izuku the most, they experience how he acts whenever he gets mad, so they start rushing down and also start taking care of the rest of the villains who are still attacking, just so they could finally just reach Izuku and tell him to calm the hell down. The good thing is, Todoroki jumped in and used a lot of his ice just to freeze the rest of the villains in place, and All Might jumped and landed by Izuku, making a huge thump. "Midoriya, what the hell are you doing?" asked All Might. Izuku then says, "Just trying to kill a monster, that's all." He's appalled at Izuku's words, and he's then pushed away by Izuku, and he manages to land far away. "What is the meaning of this?" says All Might, obviously mad. He then looks to see that Izuku didn't just push him away out of disrespect, but was actually blocking an attack from an invisible force. Then Izuku managed to grab the invisible man and threw him at Shigaraki. But just as he does, Shigaraki disappears, as well as the person who was actually invisible, and everybody just stood there shocked, not knowing what to do. Izuku then, filled with anger, yells so loud that everyone could hear it, and he just passes out onto the ground. Seeing this, everyone rallies around him in worry, but then they realize that he only passed out, he's not dead or anything. The fight didn't hurt him that much, actually. This is when Bakugo wakes up full of rage, demanding an answer for how and why Izuku did what he did, and just like him, the rest of Class 1A are just as confused. Time passes and we go to Izuku in the hospital and he hasn't woken up yet. Due to using his quirk the way he did and taking someone else's memories, he is now seeing how the Nomu is being made from the point of view of the person who was transformed into the Nomu. It's terrifying and his brain can't take the imagery, almost to the point as if he could feel the pain. Then he wakes up screaming and is sweating like crazy. Damn it! He then looks around, he's confused, and the only person he sees is his mom. Hey, how's it going? Says Izuku. Inko then jumps at him and hugs him, and Izuku says, Mom, calm down. I'm fine. Inko then says, you need to be more careful. I heard from the other heroes what you did. She then stops hugging him and looks him straight in the eye. Besides, even if you say you're fine, as your mother, I still need to be worried because I don't know how else to look at you when you do stuff like this. Izuku then says, okay, now stop holding my arms. I think your quirk is activating. You're actually hurting me now. She then quickly lets go and helps him up to go outside the hospital room, and he sees all the heroes waiting to scold him. Now skip 2 days back to UA Class 1A, and Izuku is feeling a bit down since he feels no one wants to talk to him after what happened last time. And Aizawa wasn't even there yet, but the classroom was surprisingly quiet. Uraraka then breaks the silence. So, you okay, Izuku? Izuku is surprised and says that he's fine. You know, I didn't know I was gonna act like that either. I just got pushed over the edge, I guess. Yeah, it was surprising considering how laid back you usually are. What did you do, by the way? Asked Momo. Everyone then tenses up as they have been actually waiting to ask Izuku, and he doesn't know what to say because he doesn't know if he should tell them. And Bakugo gets tired of waiting as he walks over, grabbing him by the collar. Now you listen to me, I don't care what happened, but tell me what the hell you did to me. That's all I care about. Izuku then looks straight at him and then looks away, and just as he does, Bakugo grits his teeth and Aizawa enters the room. When he does, Bakugo sits back down fast but still full with just rage, and then they all said hi to Aizawa, who started talking. I know how shaken everyone must be. Things like that usually don't happen often, but being at the top of your class, you handle things well, and for those of you who had a little episode, don't worry, because I come with good news. The UA Sports Festival is starting soon. Izuku gets a bit more happy as everyone then asked Aizawa what this festival was about, and when they realize that tons of heroes will be watching them, they all get excited and the mood of the classroom completely shifts. Midoriya, how do you feel about this? Ida asked. Honestly, I don't know. I feel excited, nervous. You know, from what I've heard, there's a chance that there will be one-on-one battles during this. When they hear this, both Todoroki and Bakugo are psyched, and all of a sudden Izuku feels like he's being pierced by stares, as everyone was finally just cheering up, and the weird atmosphere was just completely gone. Kirishima then says, you know what, Izuku, if you don't want to tell us about your quirk, it's fine. We all have things we'd rather keep private. Everyone agrees with Kirishima except Bakugo and Todoroki, and they just say nothing. And Aizawa then feels a bit more relieved, but he is planning to talk to Izuku during lunch. So he waits until lunch comes, and just as Izuku is about to leave the classroom, he grabs him by the shoulder. We need to talk, says Aizawa. Just as he says this, All Might also comes out from outside saying that he wants to talk as well. The other students watch as they both drag him away, they both drag Izuku away, and he asks for help. Uraraka then says, you think he's gonna be fine? Ida says, maybe if he's lucky. Now we go to Izuku, All Might, and Eraserhead in a room, and they both ask him things relating to the USJ incident. Izuku says, you have to be more specific on what you want to know. For one, why did you go crazy again? We've taught you to control yourself. And how did you turn that creature into a human? Asked Aizawa. All Might then asked, and what I want to know is, what do you know about my quirk? As well as, what is that invisible force? What was that? Izuku then takes a deep breath and gets serious. Look, since you're the #1 hero, I'm pretty sure it's fine if you know this, but my quirk isn't exactly enhancement. It's the ability to manipulate the human body as well as the quirk gene as I will. This shocks All Might, who then asks how that related to him knowing his quirk. Izuku then says, I can automatically see anyone's quirk. It's an extra skill set. Along with that, I can also cancel out any quirk and improve them. And as for that invisible force, it was connected to your quirk somehow. Right now I can't process things well after what I did to that Nomu. Also, I'm sure you wouldn't want me to discuss this with Aizawa in the room. All Might sits in his chair, shocked and mouth wide open, wondering how he didn't find out about this kid sooner. Aizawa then cuts in, which brings me back to my original point. What the hell did you do? Izuku then explained how he fixed the Nomu and in fact went on a whole rant about everything in excruciating detail. By the time he was done, 1 hour had passed and the two heroes were exhausted. All Might then asked, how long has it been? Izuku says, 1 hour, 5 minutes, and counting. So these Nomus are artificially created by some scientists? Asked Aizawa. Izuku nods as they look at each other and tell him that he can go back to his class now. But right before he leaves, Aizawa stops him. By the way, Izuku, don't lose it next time, okay? Things will get better, but violence isn't always the answer. I know. See you later, said Izuku. He then closes the door and starts going down the hallway and on the way back to his class. But then he starts to think to himself, maybe it's time I fix All Might. At this rate, he's not gonna last long. Maybe it's time for me to create a new quirk. Oh, but then people will get even more suspicious. I'll just ask May next time for help my gauntlet. It's the one thing people won't get suspicious of. He then goes closer to his class and realizes that he hasn't had lunch, and so he spends the rest of the day looking like an undead zombie, with all his classmates wondering why he looks like that and what happened with All Might and Aizawa, because he looks more tired than usual. Soon class does end and Izuku is too tired to get up and he has to be helped up by Sato and Ida. Then all of a sudden he picks up something. Wow, that's a lot of people, says Izuku. Bakugo then says, just how tired are you? What are you talking about? He then goes to leave when he notices that a lot of people are starting to crowd the door, and pretty soon all of Class 1B is at the door of Class 1A. Izuku then tells Ida and Sato that they can let him go now because he forgot he still has to go back to his extra class today. He passes by Bakugo, who was about to leave, and he stares at the crowd in front of him. Guys, come on, let's be mature about this. I just want to go to my last class for today. Shinso then walks through the crowd while talking. You're nothing like what I thought you'd be. Word on the news is, turns out you really came through for everyone. They are my classmates, it's only natural, Izuku says. Shinso, now staring at Izuku straight in the eye, says, alright then, since it seems you're the leader of this class, I'll tell you right now, this is a declaration of war on Class 1A. The whole class is a bit surprised by this development, and someone else from the back speaks up. Tetsu says, hey, I'm from Class 1B, I heard you easily beat all the villains, so you better not embarrass Yue in front of the crowd. Izuku then says, if that's all, then you won't mind if I leave. He then stomps on the ground with his foot and sends a shock wave at the crowd, blowing them out of the way. Or are you gonna try to keep me here? Shinso, now on the ground, loses all confidence he had and he was instinctively shaking from Izuku's stare. The crowd then just disperses, leaving only Tetsu and Shinso, who don't know what to do, as Izuku then just passes by them while scoffing, and Shinso grits his teeth in frustration. Now Izuku was finally on the way to meet Mei Hatsume. As he walked down the hallway, he was wondering what she would be working on today. In a few minutes, he arrives at the support class and enters, but he actually finds that today Hatsume isn't tinkering or blowing things up. She's actually being really quiet and just writing stuff on her notepad. He waves at Power Loader, who welcomes him back to the class, and Izuku says, so, for once she's not blowing up stuff. How did that happen? I think it's because of you, says Power Loader. Izuku then raises an eyebrow to this and approaches her. He then touches her shoulder and she turns around super surprised. Oh, you're early today, says Mei. Izuku then says, yeah, you're not messing around, what's up? He then sits by her and she explains that even though she was good at making things, they're not as intricate as Izuku's gauntlet, and she always blows things up constantly, so she's trying to plan things out more so she won't, ruin things again. What do you mean? Your inventions are awesome. Setbacks are normal, but I've been working on my project for almost a year. He brings out his gauntlet and opens up the gauntlet to show all the circuitry. You're not in any way inferior to me just because you do things a bit more wildly. Although we can both agree you need to stop blowing things up. Being around you was never boring, so be you. When she hears this, she sets down her notepad and starts to think. Paolo then says, "Are you sure that was a good thing to tell her?" "Honestly, I have no idea," says Izuku. Hatsume then stops thinking and stares at Izuku with her eyes sparkling. "Then you wouldn't mind becoming my guinea pig, right?" "I've got some new ideas," says Hatsume. Izuku then says, "I don't think that's a great idea. Sir, please say something." "We both know that's not gonna change anything," says Power Loader. After running out of options, Izuku just gave in and Mei used him as a test subject for her inventions, most of which blew up in Izuku's face, and in the end he went home pretty mentally strained. He was happy that Mei was back to her normal self, and Mei was also feeling pretty happy. Now, throughout the 2 weeks given to the students to practice, they gave it their all and their hardest, and due to what Izuku said about their potential, they were very excited and all quadrupled their training. Kirishima took Izuku's advice about using his defensive ability and turning it into an offensive ability. Thus, he worked hard to just push his hardening to the point where he discovered that the jagged edges made by his quirk could actually hurt someone if he used them correctly. And Mineta also started training, but he also took Izuku's advice and started focusing on how many balls he could pull out, and he also researched battle strategies and traps. But of course, being Mineta, he had nothing on his mind but the most dirtiest fantasies of how girls would love him so much if he just beat his enemies without even meeting them head to head. The very idea left him salivating, and for the first time in his life, he was super motivated. Now let's focus on Uraraka. She had already been given a chance by Izuku to be stronger, so she wasted no time and actually went to his house and asked for his help. After she came over, they went to his backyard and Izuku started to teach her hand-to-hand combat. They fought until Uraraka could no longer move or stand, and then during their break, Inko came over while holding cookies using her telekinesis. "So Uraraka, how do you like your home?" asked Inko. Uraraka then says, "Oh, it's great. The view from the house is really amazing." Then Inko sends a snack into her mouth by using her telekinesis, and Uraraka eats it and says it's delicious. "Your quirk is great, Mrs. Midoriya. Did you ever consider becoming a hero?" asked Uraraka. Inko says, "Maybe, but right now I'm satisfied with my life. I don't really need that type of excitement. But is there a reason why you want to be a hero?" Uraraka then explains her conditions, and after her story is told to both Izuku and Inko, they both start to cry, but Uraraka tells them that it really wasn't a big deal. But Izuku disagreed and said, "Break's over. I'm gonna make you so strong you won't recognize yourself after the 2 weeks are up." Then they quickly get back into training, and Uraraka after training is gonna shock some people, a lot of people at the sports festival, including all of you. And not only did Uraraka get stronger, a lot of 1A class students were also getting stronger as well due to being more motivated. Soon the day of the sports festival had arrived, and all the students were in their own individual rooms for their each individual classrooms. Now we go to class 1A as everyone is complimenting Uraraka on her physical changes. She had gotten more physically built, but kept a lean appearance, and she looked amazing. Uraraka then shyly says, all the credit goes to Izuku. He's the one that trained me." When she says this, all the students then turn around with their eyes sparkling, and they start to creepily approach Izuku, who says, "Guys, calm down. If you want to train together, you don't have to hound me for it. We're classmates, right?" All the students then feel happy as Izuku takes the chance to check on everyone in the class. He was amazed as they actually made great improvements. Well, good, because I actually made another quirk for myself. Let's see how they measure up to it, thinks Izuku. Just as he is checking the class out, Todoroki starts to approach him and everyone clears a path for him. He then looks up at Izuku and talks. You know, Midoriya, in terms of raw power, you beat me, and you managed to catch All Might's attention. But I am gonna beat you. After hearing this, everyone in the room is just shocked because they didn't expect Todoroki to make this declaration until one of them speaks up, and this person was Uraraka. Sorry, but before you beat Izuku, you're gonna have to go through me first. I'm his disciple after all. When everyone hears this, they're shocked as well. Just from 2 weeks of training, she seemed more confident in taking on someone as strong as Todoroki. And Bakugo finally had enough of this, and he stands up in anger and says that if anyone is taking on Izuku, it's gonna be him. All of a sudden, Izuku chuckles, and this chuckle turns into a laugh. Are you taking me lightly, you lazy bastard? Yells Bakugo. Izuku says, No, sorry, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just so excited. And Todoroki, don't look down on others. It'll cause your downfall. Just as he says this, President Mike introduces the individual classes, and they all walk out into the stadium with the crowd cheering for them. Although Class 1A are amazed at how many people in general came just to see them compete, and this also makes them a bit more nervous. And then they, line up in front of Midnight, and she starts to speak. But the students are feeling a bit weirded out, considering it's a crime that she's even wearing what she's wearing in front of students right now. Midnight then says, Silence! My clothes are completely appropriate enough for this event. Anyway, now we will hear a speech from our representative, Izuku Midoriya. Everyone starts to clap in the crowd as other classes confirm to each other that he must be the one that got first place in the entrance exams and took care of the villains at the USJ incident. Other classes expect him to be very arrogant because of his strength, but Izuku isn't that kind of guy. Izuku walks up to the podium while waving at Midnight, who then winks at him, and he feels a bit weird at this, but he does know her, and that's just kind of how she says hello. And then Izuku starts to talk after he gets to the podium. My name is Izuku Midoriya, and I'm looking forward to seeing how everyone will use their quirks to get to the top. I hope to have the number 1 spot, and I think today will be quite the spectacle. So don't even blink for a second, or you'll miss something amazing. That is all. He starts walking down the podium and he spots Mei and waves at her, and she waves back. Everyone is clapping for him because he really got them hyped up, and Izuku then walks down, passing by everybody as they wonder how he fights. Whew, my heart was about to pop out of my chest. I really don't like giving speeches. I almost lost it, especially after that wink from Midnight. He then heads towards Mei and they start to talk a bit. Izuku asked if she made any improvements to what she was gonna use, her gadgets. Mei then replied, Nope, my babies are perfect just as they are. Kind of expected that, but please don't tell me you're actually being serious. You didn't just torture me for hours on end just for fun. You did use those experiments and put them to use, right? Asked Izuku, obviously a little bit pissed off. Mei says, Of course I did, I'm just joking. Izuku says, Good, because that wasn't exactly pleasant. They then keep talking and talking as everyone is just watching them, and they keep, just making speculations because they look really close. So people start to say some stuff. Is it because she also has a great quirk? Maybe they're dating or something. Or they might just be friends. Hearing all these things, Izuku starts to slightly blush, and he looks at Mei, who was not fazed at all. You just don't get nervous, do you? Says Izuku. Mei says, What's there to be nervous about? At this point, Midnight, who was watching them, starts to chuckle a little bit, but then she gets serious as she spins the roulette, and it shows that the students are going to be doing, obstacle course. Behind the students, a gate starts to open, revealing the starting point of the challenge. And before they get to the real obstacle, they have to run through a hallway. They all quickly rally around the starting point as Midnight starts counting down, and when she hits 0 and yells go, they all start rushing in, and chaos starts to ensue. But all of a sudden, the hall fills with a blizzard, and out the entrance runs a confident Todoroki, who is thinking, Now my victory is definitely secure. All of a sudden, he is passed by 3 people, and those 3 were Izuku, Bakugo, and Uraraka. All the spectators are amazed, and Todoroki wonders how Uraraka can run so fast. Little did Todoroki know, Izuku actually taught Uraraka to apply her gravity in different parts of her body and more efficiently too. By applying her gravity to her feet and balancing the force, she can run at the speed of 200 miles per hour or more. Todoroki then says, "How is that even possible? I understand Midoriya and Bakugo, but how did she even get so fast? She was basically obsolete despite being Class 1A. This makes no sense." Then he really starts trying again and catches up to them by skating on his ice, but then he notices that the others have already broken free of the ice, and despite him freezing the ground in front of them, those like Mineta and Kirishima were already finding new ways to move forward. Why is this happening? Ah, it's him, thinks Todoroki. He stares at Izuku, who then sees him and waves at him. Then all of a sudden, Izuku blasts past everybody in an instant with such incredible force that they were all pushed back by a shockwave. Todoroki then watches him as he realizes that Izuku was right about underestimating others, and underestimating Izuku of all people was the worst mistake he had ever made. Bakugo, after being blown back, then gets up and starts chasing Izuku. "Get back here, Deku!" yells Bakugo. "Don't forget about me," says Uraraka, and she rushes forward too, and so does Todoroki. Now he realizes that from this point on, he really can't let his guard down. Now we go back to Izuku's perspective as he is the first to meet the robots, and he gets ready to take them on. "So, how should we take care of you guys? Maybe it's time I try out my new quirk," thinks Izuku. While he does all this, the crowd is watching in complete awe at how the students are just doing, and they really can't take their eyes off. President Mike then speaks. "It seems Midoriya was right, ladies and gentlemen. You really can't take your eyes off for a second. These students are absolutely amazing. What is your commentary, Eraserhead?" Aizawa then says, "I'm genuinely surprised. Until a few days ago, Uraraka couldn't even use her quirk without vomiting, but after some help, she found a way to hang with the top of the class." "I see. So is there anything else that seems to be out of the ordinary for her class?" asks President Mike. Aizawa says, "Yes, not only my class, but everyone seems to really want to go for it." President Mike then looks at Aizawa, who for the first time in his entire life has never looked more proud. It's like a dad just being proud of their son finally doing their first football throw or something. It's just really heartwarming. Now we go back to Izuku, and he's in front of a 0-pointer with a huge smile on his face as he gets ready to try his new quirk. He squats down, and with 100% of power activated in his right arm, he starts to think, "Looks like these guys are going to be my test subjects." He pulls back his fist and punches in the direction of the robot at incredible speed. The spectators watch confused as they wonder what he was doing, when all of a sudden, one of the 0-pointer's heads gets a huge hole in the middle of it, and it blows up while taking out one of the others at its side. President Mike says, "What did he do? That attack was long range, but it just took out 2 robots with such accuracy." Even Aizawa doesn't know what Izuku just did, and everyone just starts contemplating this. Luckily, I can tell you exactly what he did. That's what I'm here for. Rewind real quick. Right before Izuku threw a punch, using his new quirk, he made a portal which took his punch and opened up in front of the robot. This means that Izuku's new quirk is called Warp, or that's what I'm going to call it unless you guys can come up with a better name. Using this power, he can create portals that connect to different places, and all he has to do is just decide and think on where he wants the portal to appear, and it will. This will allow him to teleport, but for now, it's a way for him to punch through the portals and hit his opponents with perfect accuracy. No matter how far they might be, if he punches through a portal and makes a portal appear near their face, they will get hit. It does not matter. You get the point. It's basically OP, and you can never dodge it no matter how hard you try. And this makes people think that he's also just using his super strength to create shockwaves that blow people back. So it's a perfect cover if he goes fast enough and doesn't hold back. If he just goes super fast, you won't see his fist, but the person who gets hit is just gonna get flown back. Now back to the race, and after doing what he did, he proceeded to keep running forward with a big smile on his face. And by the time he passes the robots, Todoroki destroys one of the last ones and effectively stunts everyone except Bakugo and Uraraka. Of course, Todoroki flash froze everything in an attempt to hit Izuku, but Izuku just ran faster than the ice could catch up and went ahead of everyone. I wonder how Mei's doing, thinks Izuku. Mei is doing pretty good right now, and she's actually riding a hoverboard she made herself and tested while also consulting Izuku. Izuku didn't just train Uraraka through the 2 weeks, him and Mei also video chatted and exchanged some info, meaning that Izuku also found a new way to improve his gauntlets. Also, if you guys could, I would like it if you could come up with a name for the gauntlet, because I don't want to just keep saying gauntlet. It gets really annoying. Now back to the story. Izuku has arrived at the pitfall, the pitfall, which is literally just called the fall. That's what the obstacle is called. And Izuku was about to cross it. Izuku then says, well, I could just teleport there, but oh, I have an idea. He then takes a few steps back and actually sees people are about to reach him, like Bakugo, who's like legit looking like a rabid animal. Gotta go, says Izuku. He then runs at full speed and using Empower at 100%, he leaps all the way to the other side. His launch was so powerful that part of the ground he stepped on completely crumbled away. He then manages to land perfectly and safely on the other side and doesn't stop running forward until he reaches the minefield, and then he also jumps over it and runs back to the stadium, back into the stadium, and gets first place. When he arrives, he looks around nervously at the crowd as they're just not saying anything due to how shocked they are. Izuku didn't just beat the course, he destroyed it, and that jump over the huge pitfall was just amazing. But due to how he thinks sometimes, Izuku was wondering if he didn't do good enough, when all of a sudden, the crowd just starts roaring and cheering with people shouting his name, and heroes feeling like they just saw the rise of a future #1 hero. I guess I did do good, says Izuku. Izuku then starts embracing this attention and waves at the crowd as well as the cameras to say hi to his mom, and Inko, who was at home watching the festival, started to cry tears of joy and couldn't believe that her little boy had grown so much. Now back at the sports festival, President Mike was announcing Izuku's victory to everyone who was just clapping and cheering for him, when all of a sudden 3 students just burst through the gate. The 3 were obviously Bakugo, Todoroki, tying in 2nd place, and Uraraka would be slightly falling behind in 3rd place. Uraraka would then fall to the ground completely exhausted as Izuku would go over and help her up. So, how was that, Teach? Asked Uraraka, very freaking tired. Izuku says, that was amazing. How do you feel? Tired, says Uraraka. Izuku says, well, yeah, but it feels good, doesn't it? Come on, look up. As Uraraka looks up, she is shocked at the cheers and the people cheering for her, and this made her feel like she had finally made it. Due to this, she starts to break into tears, and for the first time in her life, she finally felt strong. It was strange, but a good feeling. But she knew things weren't over yet, and she had more things to show to the crowd and, more space to grow. Izuku, let's give it our best, okay? Says Uraraka. Izuku smiles as they fist bump, and soon everyone else arrives with, of course, some people not exactly making it in time, and thus they were eliminated and taken out of the festival. Only 42 people remained, and they were allowed to take a breather while the results of their ranks and points were being compiled. During the break, Izuku noticed something that almost made him legit just cry. This was how pitiful Aoyama looked. Even though he made it, he barely did due to how much his quirk hurt him whenever he used it. Izuku couldn't just let this go on, and he started to inspect his quirk as he approached him. He then helps Aoyama up, and when he gets close to him and starts talking to him, dude, are you gonna be able to go on? Asked Izuku. Yeah, I'm fine, said Aoyama, smiling. Aoyama was clearly lying, and this made Izuku even more sad. Izuku was born powerful in this what if, and he never really had many problems, but people like Aoyama have to struggle no matter the situation. What's worse is, as he could tell by inspecting Aoyama's naval laser, with the time he has to train, he will never be able to reach his full potential fast enough, or even be able to keep up with everyone. Izuku then says, Aoyama, I know this might hurt your pride, but I'm gonna help you a little bit. He then touches his stomach and Ayama feels a surge of energy and everyone turns around and notices what he's doing. All of a sudden Ayama starts to glisten and he could no longer feel any pain. Did you just heal me? Asked Aoyama. Izuku then says, I did much better than that. I used my enhancement quirk, so for the eternity of the festival you won't get any stomach aches no matter how much you use your laser, but it will drain your stamina. Aoyama's eyes widen as he then falls to his knees in complete shock. Izuku then asks if he was okay and Aoyama says, you really do this for me? You're not just messing with me, right? No, do I look like that type of guy? Actually, don't answer that. But the point is, you're better now, says Izuku. He then goes to leave when Aoyama grabs his arm and stops him. Take it back. Izuku then asks, what? Take it back, please. I know you want to help, but I'm not so weak that I need someone to take pity on me, said Aoyama. He then stands up. If you want to help, it's fine, but do it later. But right now, if I lose, I want to lose honorably. Izuku then says, sure, fine. Izuku then cancels out the enhancement and leaves him alone. He felt frustrated. He just wanted to help him, but it seems that he might have potentially lost a new friend. As Izuku continues to sulk, Midnight then rolls the roulette again and it lands on the human cavalry battle. Everyone was told to make a group full of 2 to 4 people, and she then explained the rest of the rules and people started choosing their own teams. Izuku then asked Mei to join his team and she agreed, and Uraraka willingly came to his team as well, but of course others didn't know if they should join him or not since he has 10 million points. And matter of fact, everyone was staring at Izuku's team, just like a lot of bloodlust. And in the end, Tokoyami ended up joining them as their last member, and it was also because Ida wanted to face Deku or Izuku, it doesn't matter. Izuku just didn't really care because he knows Ida is trying to grow in his own way, and honestly, we all know Ida's not going to beat him. Soon, everyone is done choosing their teams and the cavalry battle begins. Of course, Izuku is on top, and Mei gave everyone gadgets she made, and these gadgets, or babies, could help them use their quirks more efficiently. And Uraraka and Mei were at both sides, Tokoyami was in front, and also Izuku refused to use one of Mei's babies because it had been a while since he used his own gauntlet and he made some improvements, so he wanted to try things out. The teams were ready to go and there was silence filling the stadium until Midnight yelled go, and as soon as she did, everyone headed for Izuku's team, when all of a sudden they were blown back by Izuku's new trick. Izuku added a function to the gauntlet which turns his 100% empower flicks into destructive shockwaves that blow back enemies around them. Of course, this was the glove that Izuku received around the end of the season before, we all just didn't get any more seasons because of Corona, blah blah blah. It's the glove that he has in season 4. Yeah, season 4. And yeah, it's just way better this time. Anyway, in short terms, everyone, and I mean everyone, who was about to attack them were blown back to such a degree that some of them got sent flying, into the stadiums. It was a catastrophe that left everyone shocked as he took out most of the competition with one attack. Izuku's team was very happy, but Izuku didn't really look happy because he noticed Aoyama's team rushing for him. So not only did he hurt his pride, but he also ruined his chances of winning all in one by sending him flying in the end. Tokoyami then says, focus Midoriya, we're still under attack. I know, said Izuku. With his mapping skill, he detected 2 teams still coming for them, and it was Todoroki and Bakugo's team. Bakugo then yells, you're not getting rid of me that easily, Deku. He then jumped into the air, surprising his team, and launched at Deku using a new move, Howitzer Impact, but this time it wasn't going to explode just at Izuku. He was instead going to reach for his headband and then just explode back up and head for the team. Bakugo was moving at such incredible speed that he thought that there was no way they could dodge him when all of a sudden he saw Izuku smirk and he started to fall uncontrollably until he finally slammed into the ground with a loud boom, which made a huge dust cloud. And out of the dust cloud rushed Todoroki's team and they headed for Izuku's team. We've been expecting you, says Izuku. Todoroki and Izuku stare each other down as all of a sudden Todoroki covers the team with a blanket and the ground starts to crumble rumble as Kaminari sends 1 million volts of just electricity through it, and it almost hits Izuku's team, but then they fly up into the sky using Mei's rocket boots and Uraraka's gravity quirk. Todoroki then sends a bunch of ice at them, but Tokoyami uses Dark Shadow to smash them out of the way, along with Izuku's Wind Blast, and this completely devastates the ice attacks. Izuku's team then slowly starts descending when Todoroki's team takes the chance to snatch the headband. Just as Izuku's team was landing, Ida, who was in front, went full throttle and used her Super Burst to send Todoroki flying towards Izuku, and his hands were actually about to close, like they were close to touching the headband of Izuku, when all of a sudden he also slams into the ground with incredible speed, and thus his team loses. Izuku's team then lands back down, having won, and the crowd starts to cheer once again as President Mike announces the winners. But just like everyone, President Mike is confused how people just keep falling like they did, and so he asked Aizawa, who was sitting next to him. Aizawa then says it's probably due to Uraraka's gravity quirk. Like I said, lately she has grown in strength, but she only used to be able to make people lighter, which is how she was able to make herself move at such incredible speeds before. But now it seems she only needs to point towards someone to make them lighter, or heavier. Everyone then has a huge realization of what he means, and understand that without them knowing, Uraraka was in fact the team's secret weapon. And due to being in the heat of the battle, for a second everyone forgot that Uraraka actually had grown this much stronger. In any case, Izuku's team had won, meaning that they're all moving to the next challenge with the first place. Bakugo and Todoroki then get helped up by their respective teams, and they are clearly mad and done with losing to Izuku at this point. Even Todoroki was seething with rage at this point. Midnight then announces the winners, and they say that they will continue the festival after a short break. The students then start heading back into their own, rooms or dorms, I guess you could say. Some feeling frustrated and some feeling hopeful. As the students start heading back in, the stands start to clear with people leaving to get food and take a break. The heroes gather to talk about the students and those with the most potential. The students were congratulating Uraraka for her intense growth, and they can't wait to start training with Izuku as well. But of course Bakugo isn't having it, and he can't believe that once again he was cut off and beaten by Uraraka of all people. Wait a minute, where is that bastard anyway? Asked Bakugo. He says this out loud as everyone starts looking around, and they notice that Izuku was actually gone, and so is Todoroki. As for those two, they were actually in a different location having a little chat. They were in a hallway, and Todoroki wanted to talk. So, you wanted to tell me something? Said Izuku. Todoroki says, I gotta admit, you're strong. In fact, you're way too strong, to the point where you almost made me break my pledge. Izuku then says, if you came over here to boost my ego, then you're doing a fantastic job, let me tell you. Todoroki then says, fine, I'll cut to the chase. So tell me, are you All Might's a legitimate child or something? Huh? Said Izuku, confused. I'm gonna leave it off there. It is finally over. Oh my god, I can freaking sleep again. I'm sorry, I know I should feel a bit more enthusiastic, but I legitimately just want to sleep now. But regardless of that, thank you guys for the subs. We're practically at 4K. I swear, by the time I post this, we're either gonna be exactly hitting 4K or we're close to it. Either way, thank y'all so much for the support, and I love y'all, and I'm gonna be trying harder to get these videos out. But of course, since at this point, I legitimately cannot make the special for the 4K one too soon. I might have to just not do it, because there's no need to make a 4K special and then a 5K special every time. I don't need to make a special every time I hit a certain amount of subscribers. I didn't really used to want to do it. I basically just really don't want to every time. But besides that, thank you for this video, watching this video. If you did or did not like it, tell me why in the comments. Leave a like, thumbs up or thumbs down. Share this with anybody else who might like what ifs. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you guys in about 4 more days. Yeah.